Hello and welcome back to my series of podcasts about people with purpose. On today's episode, I'm joined by Rae Calnan of Radiant Angel Energy, which is she's a Kent-based Angelic Reiki practitioner. But more than that, Rae is, in her words, about helping people in a crossroads of their life. So that's things like providing opportunities to heal their past, transform their present, using things such as future life regression, past life regression, guided meditation, angel, oracle cards, hypnosis, all those kinds of things to help people grow and find their destiny and take peace from that. The whole purpose of Rae is about helping those people with their spiritual growth in a way that empowers them to propel themselves forward. So very, very different type of guest than I usually have, but Rae, just welcome. I'm so glad that you joined me today. How are you feeling?
Oh, not too bad. Thank you for having me on your show.
Brilliant. So, Rae, this is I know that we've known each other for a few years, and I know I've been on your podcast show as well. And it's fair to say that you are what a lot of people would consider an unusual kind of role or a business that you run. But just for people watching and listening who don't know you, could you just give us a bit of an intro, what it is you actually do, how you got into it, your loves, your life story, your backstory? That would be fantastic.
Yeah, certainly. Well, as Graham said, my name's Rae, and my business, Radiant Angel Energy, came about 5-6 years ago, and it came about through everything I'd developed over the years. So if we backtrack to literally when I was born, I was born into a really great family where we weren't forced to do anything in particular. We had no beliefs put on us. Neither me nor my sister were christened because my parents said that it would be our choice to choose where we wanted to go and what we wanted to follow when we were older. And of course, my mum was quite spiritual. She did palmistry and tea leaves. My aunt read tarot cards.
Wow.
We went to spiritist churches. So I was always around all that thing, all that energy. But although I was quite a spiritual child, I was also a very analytical child. So I'm one of those people, even now with what I do, I ask questions. I was always that kid that's going, well, why can't I? Because I thought, not to. Yes, but why? What is the reason behind me doing this? So I was always looking into what was behind things and to kind of like how the world. I was so fascinated about how the world worked, and especially the mind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now at the time I didn't realize. Obviously, now looking back, I know why I did. But I was interested in stars. I persuaded my parents to buy me a telescope so I could look at the moon. I persuaded them to buy me a microscope set so I could actually look at things. And in those days, health and safety wasn't as much as it was now, because I remember in those microscopes you had scalpels.
Yeah, you're showing your age a bit there, Rae.
Sorry. I know, but it's so fascinating because I did actually cut my finger on a scalpel, but rather than going, oh my God, I cut my finger, I actually went, oh, I can look at my blood under a microscope now. So you can see where my mind kind of like was going. So I kind of like dabbled in and out of runes and tarot cards and stuff like that. And friends would say, oh, what do you think of this? And, friends would give me bits of their hair. Oh, can you get your mum to do some psychometry and tell me what future is going to be?
Wow.
But then obviously teenage life hits. So you end up, the usual meal of boys, work, the whole thing. But it was still always at the back of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then about 2000-ish, 2003 ish, I had a tarot card reading, and basically the guy who read my cards said, I can see you going on a life-changing journey. He said, I think it's going to be somewhere like Sri Lanka, somewhere like that. It's like, oh, okay. So I thought, well, I've never really thought about going to Sri Lanka, but I'll go online. So I went online, thought, oh, Lonely Planet, I'll go on and see what Lonely Planet's got to say.
Yeah.
And they were doing an article on Peru. I thought, oh, that looks really interesting. So I read about that. Then a few days later, I turned on the TV. There was a Stephen Fry program talking about Peruvian bears.
Right. Okay.
Okay, now because obviously I sort of like know about synchronicities and stuff like that through life, I'm kind of thinking maybe there's something in this. So I just got some brochures. So I ordered some brochures to come in, and there's a couple of tours that I liked, where you could go as a single person, but you'll be in a group, so you weren't traveling by yourself, but you were traveling by yourself. And then it's like, but I'm not really going to be able to afford this because it was quite expensive, you know, to go traveling around Peru. And then I had to remortgage. My mortgage was up for renewal, and they mucked it up, and they had to give me some money, a difference, and the difference was exactly the amount of one of the trips.
That's crazy.
It's like, okay, I'm going to have to book this. And literally, as soon as I booked it, a woman I was working with, her grandfather passed away, and she was clearing out his attic, and she brought me in. She said, "You're not going to believe this. In his attic, she had found a Peruvian map and old Lonely Planet guide to Peru."
That's crazy. It's like all the signs.
it just all literally came in. And then when I got to the airport, there were some slight issues, and I was stuck in the middle of all these crowds, and my flight was due to go, and I got pulled through these crowds. But because I didn't have a seat and I just had to sit anywhere, I was put next to a couple who were actually on the same tour as me, which was good, because when we got to Peru, I don't speak Portuguese. I don't know the language, but because they'd done a lot of traveling themselves, they kind of we got to the hotel. And there were 11 of us, and we just all hit it off. It was like we'd all known each other. And I mean, we came from everywhere, from Canada, Australia, UK, Ireland. We all got on so well together, and it was such an amazing trip. And then when we did the 4-day Inca Trail up to Machu Picchu, I mean, that was absolutely amazing.
Very jealous.
Yeah, if you ever get the chance to do it whilst it's still as it is, although I think it just might have changed a little bit, become a little bit more commercialized now. And the first day was really easy, you know, you're just walking along enjoying it. Second day's the hardest, because you go up Saxi Woman, which basically is a mountain range. When you look at it, it looks like a woman lying down, her silhouette lying down. And it is literally like that. And you are kind of like at one point going like that, walking up these steps. But our group was the first group that the guide said, where we actually stayed and waited for everyone to get up. Because normally when people got to the top, they went straight off to get refreshments. But we were the only group that actually stayed and was shouting encouragement for all the rest of our group to come up.
Nice.
The third day is supposed to be the most scenic, because you go over the rainforests. You know,
wow,
not for us. It rained, it sleeted, it was foggy. You know, you kind of like had to stay by the cliff base because you couldn't see where the drops were. But every now and again, you went into a cloud forest, and it was like amazing, because it was like there was sunshine, and you're taking all your layers off, and then suddenly you're back out the cloud forest. But the fourth day is when you actually go up to watch the sunrise over Machu Picchu. Now, obviously the sunrise is every day, but the sun gate, it only goes through at a certain angle at certain times. We were lucky enough for it to see it go through at the perfect angle. And this is how amazing it is, because there were some children, and there's been 100 people, and there were children that's up there as well. You would have heard a pin drop.
Wow.
That is how amazing it was.
Yeah.
And then when we were walking around, at one point I stood on one of the platforms, and as I looked down, it was only a few seconds, but I was transported back in time to Incan times, and I was actually addressing a crowd below me.
Wow.
Only a few seconds, but it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then when I came back to England, it was kind of like, it was October, so it was grey, miserable, but I was in the office, and I thought, do you know something? I don't want to be in an office anymore. It has no interest of me. I want to be out doing something. So that's kind of like put a switch in my head. and I started looking at alternatives. And I'd always been interested in angels. But that time, angels weren't as popular as they are now. You know, if you wanted angels, you kind of like, I signed up to Ace Christmas catalogue so I could get angels stuff. If I wanted books, I had to go get from Ireland, because Doreen Virtue, Diane Cooper weren't really about them. But I kind of like had an urge to kind of like wanted to work more with the angels. And I came across Angelic Reiki. And at that time, there weren't any teachers near me. So I had to travel all the way to Middlesex to go and do the training every day for 3 days. But it was just so amazing being able to do this. But I did my part 1 and 2, but then I kind of like left it because, again, life gets in your way with various things, you know, and you're still kind of like having to work. But then I went to an angel gathering where someone was doing an angel workshop, and I got talking to a couple of women there, and they said, "Oh, we know somebody who does Angelic Reiki in Shooters Hill." It's like, oh, great. So I've contacted her, and literally I've literally done 3 and 4 practitioners, a master teacher, literally within a space of 4 months. So, which would allowed me then to teach it. But the thing with the mind was still there. And I had a past life regression with a friend of mine who was dabbling in it and said, I need somebody to practice on. Yeah, okay, I'm willing to have a go, because I'd always been fascinated by and with my experience with it and stuff I'd read about. But I never thought I'd be doing, you know, I thought you had to do hypnosis to do it. Anyway, she took me back to the 1700s, and I was, think about 10-year-old child in the Spanish-French Pyrenees, quite a poor family, stone house, but I was a very sickly child and I didn't have any friends, so I was quite lonely. But I remember being in the garden and sitting down with my back to a tree when my heart stopped and I died as a child.
That's spooky to think like that.
It was scary, but it was beautiful as well. I mean, I know I had tears literally coming down my eyes. You know, when you're in past life, future life, you're still kind of like present, so you know what's going on in your physical world here. But there were loads of butterflies. Now, I've never worked out whether those butterflies were butterflies that were flying around at that time, whether as that 10-year-old dying, that's how she visualized death, or whether that was me as an adult now subconsciously making it easy for me to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've not even in all the time I've been doing past life regression, I've not worked that one out yet. But that's one of the mysteries of life, that if I'm meant to work it out, I'll work it out. So that kind of like got me started thinking of that, and I thought, well, you need to do hypnosis. So I wasn't quite sure on a lot of hypnosis because it was all very clinical.
Yeah.
And then I came across a guy called Buckingham, who is more spiritual angle on hypnosis. So I did my training with him, and from there, I kind of like started looking at, okay, if I can do hypnosis and I can do past life regression, can we go into the future? You know, we can go and do my research. I came across Angelic, and who is the pioneer really of future life regression, has really pushed it forward. I mean, Brian L. Weiss did a lot with past life, and he did mention some future life, but Angelic has really pushed that forward. And I went and did her training. Then I went back and did the other training, become so not only a practitioner, but also train people in future life regression. And it kind of like everything just all married up together. It kind of like culminated in what I'm doing now. And obviously guided meditation, again, it's storytelling. I've always been a great storyteller. I love reading. That is reading and telling stories are my passion. You know, that's why I do amateur dramatics. Why I want to be an actress, because I love telling stories. And the guided meditation is a way of me doing that. And when I do past life and future life, again, I'm helping you tell your story, allowing you to go on your journey, but with me guiding you along it. So it just all kind of like mashed into one that allowed me now to help people both with healing, as I said, you know, heal your past. If I work very much in the present, I'm very, you know, my analytical mind, whatever, it's like, okay, what's going on now is important. We need to be present. But I found that if we work with the past and we heal the past, that allows us then to be fully present, because we're no longer worried about all that stuff that's affected us, all those issues. And when we go work with the future and we go into the future and we can see where we're going, how we're getting there, how we need to do it, we don't worry in the present. So we can actually enjoy life more in the here and now.
I mean, obviously, a lot of people, and I will put my hands up to it. I would have said a few years ago, I'm not a woo-woo person. I wasn't ever really spiritual. I didn't believe in a lot of things. I am an atheist in that one sense. And what do you know? Do you come across problems with that when you're talking about these things? Do you find any prejudices or problems around what you believe in?
I don't. I think it's because I don't have a belief. I have a knowing. So
Right.
I know there are angels. I know we go into past lives. I know we go into future lives. I know there are unicorns. You know, I know there are things that we don't necessarily see in this physical world, but are there in the spiritual world, because everything is energy. We're all energy.
Yeah.
You know, our tables are energy. We're all the same energy. We just vibrate on different dimensions. So I know that there is a lot more to life. So when I talk, I mean, as you've just heard me, and you know, when I start talking, you know, I'm so passionate about this stuff, and I know it's so real that I really don't get anyone. You know, I might be talking to somebody somewhere. You know, I remember once, and I was sort of like going on about, I think we were talking about unicorns or something like that, and angels, and I saw his eyes glaze over, but you know, I'm still carrying on talking because this is my passion. And when it came to a Secret Santa present, he brought me a little toy unicorn, a collectible one,
Brilliant.
thinking he was doing it as, you know, you know,
Funny Secret Santa, yeah.
yeah. But it was actually subconsciously in his head. He had got me something that was actually would resonate with me.
Yeah.
So I know that there are some people, you know, I've had students and clients who go, you know, I can't really talk about this because people look at me, you know, like a little bit weird, and you know, they're very skeptical. And I kind of like say, well, that's fine to be skeptical. You know, I'm still skeptical of stuff. You know, I have to research stuff. I have to know it's working. You know, and I'll say to people, well, try it. You know, and that's the thing I think a lot of people forget. You know, it's when they're skeptical about things. Well, if you know it's not going to physically harm you, try it. And then if it doesn't work and you're still a skeptic, that's absolutely fine. You know, we're not all the same people. Everybody has their own issues, their own belief systems, their own way of doing things, which is absolutely fine. And that's how it should be. It's the same as if, you know, other practitioners that do the same as me, like Angelic Reiki practitioners, future life progressionists, past life regressionists. We all do the same thing, but we attract different people. And that's why I say everybody, no matter what business you're in, there's this place for everybody in that. There shouldn't be any competition with other people. It is a case of working together, collaborating together, because someone who resonates with me might not resonate with someone else doing Angelic Reiki, but someone who resonates with them might not resonate with me. Well, as far as I'm concerned, they're getting Angelic Reiki or they're looking at their future. It's going to help them, whether it's me or somebody else.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's very similar, as you say. It works with all types of business. You know, there's people that when I work with my clients in photography or video, there are people that I would work with, or there's people that I wouldn't like to work with, and I've actually turned down work because I think, you know what, the relationship isn't going to work here. There's plenty of other photographers and video. There's plenty of work for us all out there. It's just that they weren't my client, they're somebody else's. It's very interesting from that perspective.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, the fact that every business can do that is absolutely brilliant, because there's more than enough people for everybody out there, especially, you know, especially therapists. And I think therapists can be a bit more sort of like, okay, I want client type thing, but there is enough out there for everybody.
Yeah.
And the more that there are more people doing the therapies, the more people are going to be exposed to it, the more people's energy is going to get brighter. The more energy that gets brighter, the better the world becomes, the happier people become. And we just all start being happy, being friendly with each other, not causing wars or issues. You know, we just all get on. So the more people actually doing therapies, having therapies, it's a win-win.
Yeah, it's good all round, isn't it? It's that I know I always end up saying it, but no matter what, but it's the rising tide lifts all the boats. If we're contributing and learning and sharing, we're helping that rising tide. So we all come through it. We all, you know, lift ourselves up, which is something that I really believe in. And that's why, and as I said a few moments ago, I was, and to a certain extent, I probably still am in certain areas, a skeptic. Yet, having seen you work and having read the testimonials, knowing some of the people that you worked with, there's no denying that there's something there. There's something in there that I can't explain, but it works. And I think even if you don't believe, it's undisputable that it works for the people that want it to work or they believe in it. And that's what I find really fascinating, that, you know, there's things that I've happened in my life that I can't explain. So weird things that, you know, where I know this, we're about you, but it's very much the King's Cross fire many years ago. I dreamt that happened, but on the same night that it happened. So I was almost there. I felt that I was there. I felt that I remember all of those kind of strange things. I can't explain that. And it's, you know, it's just fascinating. So, I mean, how long have you been doing it again? You did say, but just how long have you actually been running it as a business?
Well, the business has been going since about actually, I said about 5-6 years, actually probably about 7 years now.
Wow.
So you think about it, time has just gone so fast. It's like, I have no idea where time's gone. So yeah, I think it's probably about 7 years now that I've actually been doing the business.
Sure.
And teaching and helping people on their journeys.
Cool. Have you found that? That's because obviously running a business can be a little bit more analytical. It can be a little bit more logical, but I get the impression that you were like that anyway, because you talked about how you like to see how things worked and you wanted to get behind the scenes. Is it fair to say that it works quite well together, the spiritual side and the more business, analytical, logical world?
Yeah, I find that I can do it quite easily. I know a lot of there are some therapists that do struggle with that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I would say at the beginning of when I started my business, I probably was of that similar mindset. You know, I can't really be charging for this.
Yeah.
You know, I should be doing this. I want to help as many people as I can. You know, that's the idea. You know, if I had all the money in the world, I'd still be charging some people, but it'd give me the chance to be able to help others for free.
Yeah.
And the reason for charging is not so much for, it's kind of like an exchange of energy. Everything we do is energy. Money is energy. And if you're offering a service to somebody, then then the exchange is energy. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be money. It could be a testimonial. It could be a donation somewhere. Mm-hmm. It's just that you're giving something back for something you've received. Because when you receive something, you pay it, you give back, then that multiplies and it starts, getting more and more and more along the line. And I think, and at that time, you meet people that say those things that click something in your mind. And she actually did tarot cards, And she was actually at a fundraising event, and you could either put a donation in, or you'd got it free. And she said the people that had money were the ones that did it for free. The ones that didn't have the money but needed the information and were taking it seriously put the donations in. And that kind of like thought, do you know something? That really kind of like helps, you know. I've got to live, you know, to be able to help people, I've got to be able to have a roof over my head, because my therapy room is my house, you know, a room in my house. And I've got to be able to eat, because if I don't have my therapy room and I can't eat, then I can't help people. And so it's kind of like getting into that mindset of, yes, I'm charging, but I'm not charging to become rich and be a millionaire. I'm charging to allow me to help, to continue to help other people that you know, that need that help, you know. And I offer discounts, you know, and there's loads of things you can do with people. If you know somebody is genuine and they really need the help, I'm not going to go, right, you need, you know, we'll work something out. That's the way it goes. You know, I've done exchanges with people over stuff.
It's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, that is so true what you say about having that. It's the old analogy, isn't it? If the aircraft analogy, which is one that's quite often used. For me, it's the car. It's, you know, if I want to give somebody a lift, I've got to have fuel in the car to be able to, or otherwise we won't. None of us will actually go anywhere. And that's the same thing. You need to get paid so that you've got fuel in the car to then take someone on that journey. And I think that's a really important point to make, not just for spirituality or anything like that, but just for life itself, and business is very important. I mean, you mentioned a few names of people that have inspired you. Is anybody else, you know, who's sort of mentored you or, you know, helps you on your journey?
I would say everyone I have contact with, whether in my daily life, whether that's peers or students or clients, everybody inspires me when I see that spark, when they actually take that step. And that is so inspiring to me, because it kind of like, okay, I'm on the right path, I'm doing the right thing, I'm seeing how they're going, you know. Even if I'm, you know, you watch something on, I mean, I don't watch the news because the world, yeah, we forget about that. But, you know, you spot something and somebody has achieved something. And to me, that's an inspiration, because they've done something themselves and they've moved themselves forward. And of course, the main things would be my parents, you know, because they gave me the absolutely perfect childhood, but allowed me and my sister to become who we were without putting any religions or patterns that we have to do this, we have, you know, you have to follow this thing. They allowed us to actually explore and be who we are meant to be.
That's so refreshing to hear, and it's something that I believe in. You know, that we all hear about the pushy parents and all of those kinds of things, but for me it's about, well, I had those freedoms as well. It was up to me to make those choices, and I'd like to think that I'm better for it.
Yeah, I mean, there was still discipline, you know, there were still rules we had to follow. You know, we weren't just allowed to run wild and free, you know, there were still things we followed, but within those boundaries, we were allowed to explore and expand.
I mean, it's fair to say that children need boundaries, because that's what helps you grow and learn and understand the limitations of what is normal in society and what isn't, and all those things. But the idea that you can explore what career you're interested in or what subjects you want to learn at school and all of those kinds of things, no matter what you choose to do, there should always be some form of encouragement and just say, well, look, if that's what you're interested in, then we'll support that. I think that's really, really important. I mean, we'll kind of catch up to sort of like the modern day we're in now. We've talked a lot about how you got into it and where you started, but so what's the sort of the more recent times been like for you? Okay, we will mention the C word, the COVID and things like that, but I want to focus on what's the last year been like for you? What have you been up to? What have you been doing? You talked about some workshops that you do. Just give us a little bit of more insight into that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I with what I do, I can do my work online as well as in person.
Right.
So when we did have to go into that period where we weren't allowed to have physical contact with people, I was still able to see clients online. That's the beauty of online. I've got clients, America,
Oh, wow.
Australia, South Africa, Scotland, all all over
All
the
the exotic places.
yeah, exactly. And then that's beauty. So, because obviously everything I do is all energy work, future and past life, and guide meditation, all energy. Even oracle and angel card readings, it's all energy. So you can do that. It didn't affect me as much because I was already doing those sort of things. But I found, obviously, I wasn't able to run my Future Life Progression workshop this year, which would have been nice. So I'm looking at running that next year now. I was able to, when the restrictions eased a little bit, was able to run an Angelic Reiki 1 and 2 workshop, compliant with whatever we're supposed to be compliant with these days.
Who knows?
So I was able to get more people to do that, because all my trainings are actually one-to-one trainings in person.
Okay.
I can't do any of my trainings online, but I've also been able to run retreats. I've run 2 retreats this year down in Glastonbury. I love Glastonbury. I've been going down to Glastonbury on and off for about 20 years.
Wow.
Most of my spiritual journey, where I've done lots of work on myself, has all been via Glastonbury. And because that work's completed, I can now take other people down to Glastonbury and help them down there. So I've run 2 this year, and I'm looking at running at least 4 next year down
Brilliant.
in Glastonbury. But I've also found a lot more of my clients are looking at the future life stuff now. Unfortunately, due to circumstances, people's jobs, what they've been doing for years, is suddenly being taken away from them, and they're kind of like, what do I do now? Well, we take them into the future to see where they are going, where they're going to be, what they should be doing, what route should they take now. Just been talking to a client of mine who did a future life in business with me at the beginning of the year, to see how she could progress her business this year. She's in infertility, and how she could progress it. And she'd kind of like been thinking about, kind of, write a book. But she actually saw in that future the steps she needed to take to do that. Well, she's done those steps, and she launched her book yesterday.
Wow.
And that's through seeing how her business was set out during the year. And that's what I'm finding. A lot of people are now coming. They're either coming to me for the healing, to the Angelic Reiki healing, or the Angel Oracle cards, but also for the future, so that they know where they're going. They're not worrying anymore. They know, and they're seeing the steps they need to take to actually find what they should be doing. I look at the situation that's going on, and it's been a chance for everybody to reset, to reboot, to actually, okay, let's see now what I should be doing, what makes me happy, through the, I wouldn't say despair, but through the disappointment of not doing what they'd always been doing. They're actually seeing what they should be doing, how they can do it. And that's really quite an amazing thing that's coming about at the moment.
And you're seeing more people opening to that, the idea of that.
Yeah, so many more people. And it's not just with me working, but Angelic recently released a book, and she's doing more work with businesses. And I've now started to get some people from businesses who run their businesses come to me, because CEOs are now looking at what are the future trends. How should I be taking my business forward? I mean, Anne's been doing that for years, but it's kind of like really now starting, because again, it's people with businesses that are going, okay, I need to do a redirection now, or what should I be putting in place so that, something like this happens again, my business is, I'm going to have a business. So that's really interesting, that CEOs and businesses are really now kind of like taking more on board, with the business rather than the spiritual. It's the business side of it, which is absolutely fascinating.
That is really interesting, because I guess in a way it's like goal setting, but from a spiritual perspective. Does that
Yeah. So I suppose you could look at it that way, but it's more because it's your subconscious, your higher self,
yeah,
that's seeing those, that are seeing it. But you kind of like, when you go and you actually get to experience it, you get to talk to your future self.
wow,
So your future self will actually tell you how they got to where they go, how they got to that point that you want to be. They've given you the steps to actually do it. Because it's like, if you'd spoken to Graham 5 years ago and said, Graham, how can I get to this point I'm at now? Your Graham, you Graham now would said, well, what you need to do is this, this, this.
yeah.
And the Graham back then would have gone, okay, that's what I need to do. So you would have done those steps, and that you would have actually probably done that quicker. So you'd actually be further on than you are now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have believed it. I mean, just thinking about that question, where I was 5 years ago and where I am today, there's just no way that I would have seen myself where I am now. I wish I had, but
But if you'd had future life progression back then, you would have done.
yes, yeah. All right, okay, fair point. That's just really, I think that whole idea of used to be like CEOs and the business side of it, I find that really quite interesting. Being, I actually do, as a photographer, I love the business side as well. I find it fascinating. I'm like you, I like to dissect it and find out how it all works. And I think you've got to love a bit of both. It's like you with, you love that spirituality, but you enjoy the business side as well. And that's why you've been running for 7 years
Yeah.
or around about. So I think that's a really important point to make, that so many businesses do not last because they're very good at what they do, but they're not so good at actually putting fuel in the car, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That makes absolute sense. I don't know everything about business. I still,
No.
need to ask people about stuff. But that's the joy and the beauty, of doing that and meeting the people. Because when you ask somebody for help or guidance on something, you're meeting somebody new.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're getting to know someone.
It's brilliant. I mean, it's very much along the lines of and I know you do it as well. I know I do a lot of networking, going to networking groups, and that is exactly the same thing. You're meeting new people, you're finding experts in their field that you can ask them questions, and they don't know about so they ask me stuff about what I do, and it's really, really interesting. So obviously we talked about this year, and I know it's been very difficult sort of COVID wise, but you're saying that you're still seeing an interest in that and growing. But what's the sort of now you probably already know this, but why? Because we've talked about future life progression. What is your future? What have you got planned? Where do you see yourself heading in the next sort of few years, perhaps?
Yeah. Well, I haven't gone a future life progression recently, because obviously I need to do it with somebody else, because it's a bit difficult doing it on yourself, and that you do kind of need someone else to guide you. But I do know that when I've had a past future life progression a couple of years ago, my main goal is I'm going to have my retreat. And it's going to be a retreat where I do all my therapies, but also people will be able to hire that. So that I know is coming up. So that's going to be next year or the year after. But they never gave me a specific date or time or anything where it's going to be, even though I kept asking, oh, can't you give me more information? No, you don't need to know. Really? You see, this is how I know people, you can't make it up, because because I know what I want. And I was going, okay, show me this. And my future self was going, well, why do you need to see it? You're going to get it. It's like, but I want to see. So the next couple of years, I should have my retreat. But really, next year it is a case of running retreats, not in my own place, but down in Glastonbury. You know, I've done 2 and I've absolutely loved doing it. You know, I love taking people around Glastonbury. I love helping them to explore their own issues. You know, we do healing, we're going back into the past, we go into the future. You know, we connect with energies in Glastonbury. So I want to do at least 4 of those next year. I want to run future life progression training next year to teach more people to be able to become future life practitioners so that they can start helping other people in their businesses. And of course, when you do the training, you actually get to experience it as well. So you actually get to see your future. So you know, you get to see where you're going with it. Obviously, running more Angelic Reiki workshops, possibly working with doing collaborations with a couple more people that we were supposed to do this year, but obviously we couldn't. And obviously, I think the last thing that's really happening this year is on the 31st of October, which is perfect for me, Samhain, Day of the Dead. Especially as I've been to Mexico around about the time the Day of the Dead takes place.
Oh, wow, I bet that's amazing.
Oh my God, I get crashed awake.
That's a new one. I've had wedding crashes, but not awake.
I know. Because basically what we've done, we'd gone up to the because what they do is on the 31st they go to the cemeteries to celebrate with their departed loved ones, and they take flowers, and we're invited along to go with them to the local cemetery to place flowers on graves that were neglected. You know, they had no family there. And when we got back, a few of us were wandering around, and it was a small town, and they sort of like had a little bit of festive, you know, saw people dressed in the masks and everything.
Yeah.
But we thought, do you know something, really fancy a drink. Anyway, we couldn't see any bars or anything, but then we spotted this tarpaulin and some plastic chairs and tables. And a couple of people have been sat down, they left their glasses and they walked off. And we thought, oh, great, us, we've sat down. Anyway, the guys come out and we'd asked for some metaxa, and he brought us some viney things. But it turns out he was actually awake. And what happens is, a year to the day that a person dies, and unfortunately he had lost his wife and brother-in-law that day a year before, exactly a year to the day afterwards, they actually celebrate those people's lives. And then after that, they go to the graves. So if somebody died, say, yesterday, a year today, they opened their house to everybody, and they invited inside the house, and it was the most surreal thing, because you had this great big shrine in the middle of the room to his wife and brother-in-law. You had mariachi players, you know, doing their music. You had chess out, so you had people laughing, joking, but you also had people crying. It was just, I mean, we were invited to go with them at midnight up to their relatives' graves. We kind of like declined that one. But yes, so I can say I gate crashed awake in Mexico on the Day of the Dead. But this year, so I line up. You know, I'm a pagan, so I follow all the wheels of the year, and Samhain is one of the big ones on the 31st of October. But there's a wellbeing event being run down in the little horse yard in Horton Kirby, raising money for they're a charity, and they help with mental health issues, but they use the horses. So
I've heard of stuff around that before.
Yeah, so it's a fundraising event down there. I mean, we did one back in September that was really successful, so we're doing one down there again. So there's going to be lots of stalls down there where you can buy bits for Christmas. You can have some therapies, you know, crystals, cards, the usual spiritual things, but also practical stuff that you can buy for Christmas. And I'm down there offering Angelic Reiki, or I'm actually going to be offering to take you into a future lifetime to meet a departed loved one. So you can actually go and experience that. But I'm also doing a workshop down there talking about future life progression and taking people into a future life with a magic carpet. Now, she's got a magic carpet ride into a future lifetime. And there's a couple of other workshops. And then the big workshop at the end, they're actually doing a fire and sound workshop. So you can, release everything that no longer serves you, get rid of it, and then set intentions for the new one. And it's really brilliant because it's only £5 to get in. All the workshops, or the three workshops are £5. The main workshop is £10. So for that, you get a wellbeing event for the day, get to buy gifts for Christmas, supporting local businesses, get to set your intentions for the coming year. So that's the last event that's really taken place this year, and it's kind of like going into hibernation. And
when was that again? Sorry, just when was that event again?
That's
sorry,
the 31st of October, 11 a.m. It starts at 11 a.m. And the Fire Festival's about 3:30. So apart from obviously seeing clients this year, because obviously I've been able to see them in person again, as well as online. Although I'm finding a lot more people preferring the online because they can actually relax in their own homes, and they don't have to leave their house to come out. So they're in a nice, relaxed atmosphere. So apart from really seeing clients this year and doing that wellbeing event, the rest of the year is kind of like hibernation time, working out where I'm going, what I'm doing, creating new things, and really setting down and get my business side and all my videos, sort of like my YouTube channel, really working on that now. Obviously continue with my shows, still doing that. I've got guests booked up until next year now.
Wow.
So I'm busy, but I'm also going to be hibernating and retaking stock and reevaluating what I'm doing and where I'm going.
Yeah, it's actually probably a good time of year to do that kind of stuff as well. To sort of reset, reevaluate. I don't sort of do the whole new year and all that kind of stuff, but it does seem a logical time. Things do generally seem a bit slower as you come into the winter months, I find. But
yeah,
fantastic. So what would your top tips be now for someone who is perhaps not as spiritually sort of minded or open to the idea? What are your top tips for people right now, especially with what's going on in the world? How can you help us today?
Today, I would say, obviously, if you need help and guidance, look for a therapist like myself or other therapists. We're always there ready to help. But if you're not ready to do that yet, then I would say the best thing to do are take those 5 minutes a day, 5 minutes when you're in the bathroom, if need be, by yourself, where you actually take the time to just concentrate on your breathing, to clear your mind, allow yourself to relax. You only need 5 minutes. You can do it when you're cleaning your teeth, and just concentrate on being present and being grateful for what you have now. If you're grateful for what you have now, you'll find more things will come to you. And again, also, if you're give and receive and give, do that exchange of energy with people. It could be time. That 5 minutes of talking to that person at the bus stop. Little things like that, I think, will help you stay fully present, fully grounded, but also will help you feel connected to others. Because I think one of the main things that we've got now is loneliness and people feeling they can't connect with others. You don't physically need to touch somebody to connect with them. Just talking to them, even at a distance, even if it's a stranger, gives you that human connection. So I would say, basically take those 5 minutes for yourself, just to be fully present in the moment. Start giving and receiving. Be grateful for what you have, what is around you at the time. Even if it's grateful that, like today, the sun is shining, it's not raining. I'm grateful for today that I'm not going to get wet. Every night before I go to bed, I list the things I'm grateful for that day, even down to the fact that, I've got a bit of food. And of course, another good tip as well is when you're paying out, when you're paying out something like your electricity bill, your gas bill, your food, actually be grateful and say thank you. Thank you that I've got the money to pay to give me heating that will keep me warm. So gratitude is a really big thing, I think.
that fits with so much more than just spiritual advice. I think that's a human advice. I think having that, certainly when I had, again, if you want to put for a better word, a reset to my life, I think those things that you said completely resonate. Being grateful for what you've got around you. You know, I actually posted something last night. You know, that this time last year I was on holiday with my family in Florida, and I posted a picture on it because I was grateful for that moment and that memory that it brought me yesterday, thinking, wow. And imagine if I had booked it for this year, it may never have happened. And that decision, I'm grateful for making that decision to actually, instead of, at the time we didn't necessarily have the money, but we thought, no, let's just do it now because it feels right to do it now. If we'd waited a year, we might not have had that opportunity. And it's really important what you're saying about the gratitude side of things. I mean, that's just been, it's fascinating. And I think, as having this conversation with you and knowing you sort of previously, I like to think that I have become more spiritual. And that's a big thing for me to admit, because I've always been the very logical kind of person, but I am so much more receptive and open to it because I've seen the impact that it has on people. And I think that's the key thing. It's like you were saying earlier about if you are skeptical, you do have any doubts, if it's not going to hurt you, give it a go, find out, see if it works for you. If it doesn't work for you, that's fine. It's very different. And as you say, there's different therapies out. I mean, actually, just sort of another question about that. I mean, do you work with other therapists from different sort of styles of approach? So, you know, there are hypnotherapists out there are counselors, there are coaches, I mean, do you work with other people? Do you complement each other?
I think everything we do can complement other people. You know, thing with Michelle Budd that we were supposed to be doing this year was working. We were doing a combination. She works with the horses, so we were actually doing a 3-month workshop where we were actually combining what I do and what she does with the horses. So we're working together to create that, to help people transform their lives, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So yeah, I'm always working with therapists. I'm always looking to work with other therapists as well. You know, working in collaboration, because I find that when we join our energies together, bigger and better things happen. You don't need to be working by yourself all the time. Working in collaboration with other people is such a huge investment, and something that I think everybody should be doing. It's working in communities and with others for the benefit of the greater good.
Definitely, it's a great approach, and the fact that you work with other therapists, there's no animosity to sort of say, well, it doesn't matter what that person believes in, as long as we're helping them to transform or help them whatever pain they're dealing with or whatever future they're trying to find or whatever issues it might be. It's just really fascinating. I mean, I'm just conscious of the time. I mean, we could probably go on for a lot longer, actually.
Oh, we could probably go on, but you know me.
Yeah, but it's just so fascinating. I mean, is there anything else that you could say right now? I mean, you've given some tips about the gratitude and stuff, but I mean, what else is there? Any final words of wisdom for Rae? I mean, would you care to do a reading now if you're ready to do one, or are you just gonna?
Yeah, no, I can. Funny enough, I have my cards with me, as I always have them with me.
This wasn't planned. It just came to me.
I can do a card now, so I'll do a card for you and everybody who's watching. Fantastic. So as usual, I just cleanse and bless the cards. So, what does Graham and everyone who's watching this need to know for their highest good at this moment in time? Again, I'm not doing the future, it's what you need to know for your present time.
Right now.
So what does Graham and everyone who's watching this need to know for their highest good at this moment in time? Perfect. Overcoming obstacles. You can overcome anything.
That is brilliant.
Which ties in absolutely perfect, as they always do, with what we've been talking about. So it is kind of like saying to yourself and all those watching, no matter what obstacles appear to come your way, you can actually overcome anything. You just need to
Yeah,
take that time to
spooky.
center yourself and connect with yourself. See the positives that you have, and that will take you over that obstacle.
Yeah, that right. I'm not gonna. You know what? That is actually spot on. I was having a conversation yesterday about something very, very similar, talking about how I've transformed overcome so many obstacles, and I feel that I'm empowered to do more. Whatever's thrown at me, I'm ready to take it on. Another lockdown, right? Okay, another lockdown. How can I overcome that? What can I do to keep working, to keep helping other people, to keep yeah, really good, really, really fascinating. I really enjoyed that, actually. Thank
Always
you.
confirmation.
Absolutely. I mean, so just kind of wrap it up now, because otherwise we would be going all day.
Oh God, yeah, we're getting so many topics.
Oh yeah, there's so many different things. Perhaps we'll have to we'll have to have another one of these again in the future. Well,
Yeah.
perhaps you know that. Sorry.
No, yeah, kind of like, yeah. Well, I knew that was going to happen. Always
You knew
does.
it's going to happen anyway. Fantastic. So we will have another one in the future, so that we can revisit these points and see where we've transformed since then. It'll be interesting to say next year to see how the retreat things happening and stuff like that. That could be quite fascinating. But how do people find you? How do people work with Rae? If I was interested in having some therapies, be that Reiki or future or past life regression, where do I find you? How do I get in? How do I speak to you?
Okay. My business is Radiant Angel Energy. So my website is www.radiantangelenergy.co.uk. My email is ray@radiantangelenergy.co.uk. Facebook, Radiant Angel Energy, YouTube, Radiant Angel Energy, Instagram, LinkedIn, it's all
You're
under Radiant
everywhere.
Angel Energy.
Brilliant.
And if you think about it, Radiant Angel Energy, the first three letters are my first name.
Oh yeah.
And that wasn't planned. The business name, it's only after the business name came up that someone pointed out, you do know that's your initials.
Very good. Very good. I like that a lot. I really do. That's brilliant. I mean, it's for anybody that is skeptical that might be watching. I was a skeptic, and I've seen Rae at work. I've seen the testimonials that her clients have left. I've heard people speak about what she does. If and right back to the early point that I'm going to make, and also Rae made, that if you are a skeptic, you are on the fence, or you're not sure about this kind of stuff, but you still need some help, or you need some direction, whether that be something in the past, or you want to know what your future holds, or you just feeling pretty rubbish at the moment, because there's a lot of that about. These things can help, and I do urge you to get in contact with Rae and give it a go, because what have you got to lose?
And I do offer a free 20-30 minute video call to actually chat to people anyway, to see if we are a fit, whether I can or can't help. And you do get a card, pulled for you during that 20 to 30 minute video call as well. So,
well, it's a no-brainer in my book, and I think we'll kind of finish it up there, Rae. Have you got any final words of wisdom for us, Rae, before we close down the show?
No, I think we've covered everything, but the one thing I will say from all the future stuff, don't worry about the future. The planet is still going to be here. We are still going to be here in 100 years. Okay, so don't worry about where things are going. The future is a lot brighter.
I like that. It's a nice note to finish on today. So Rae, it's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you've enjoyed chatting with me today.
It's been brilliant being on the other end. Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting concept, isn't it? I find it quite weird being on the receiving end as well as the swapping it around. So yeah, really, really interesting. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it, and I hope anybody watching or listening have enjoyed it too. So it's fair to say thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.